Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial we're going to start looking at wiring spring beans using annotations. So I've got this project from a previous tutorial, and in this project we've got this logger class and we've got two beans that we want to wire into this class via this setConsoleWriter and setFileWriter method, and those beans are defined in the XML here and here. Now I'm going to clean this up a bit from the last tutorial where we used this this project. I'm going to get rid of extra beans that I added to kind of demonstrate the effects of ambiguities and how to clean them up in the XML. I'm going to get rid of all the auto wiring stuff that I had in here previously and any attributes to do with auto wiring. So we're going to start with a nice clean project. If I run this now, what happens is we get an error. And it's not a spring error, it's just that we're getting a null pointer exception because we're not wiring these two beans into this class, and it needs those two beans to do its stuff. If it doesn't get them, we have a null pointer exception when we try to run it. So we're going to go ahead now and look at how we can set up this project so that we can use annotation based wiring, and then in the next tutorial we'll actually do some wiring. So this is pretty simple. I'm going to go to beans.xml, my beans XML file here, and we've got various namespaces in here that define what we can then use in the XML file. And these namespaces here, as far as I know, they look like URLs, but they are just namespaces, a bit like package names that just define what you can refer to in this XML file. And these schema location URLs here, I believe these are actually URLs, but although by default, I think, I'm a bit hazy about XML, but I think that by default the XML parser in Java would then try to retrieve these schemas using these URLs from the internet. Nevertheless, Spring will intercept that and supply the correct schemas. So I don't think any of this is contacting the internet, as far as I know, but if you're an XML expert, you might know differently. Anyway, what we're going to do here is just add another schema into here so that we can use a new tag in here that we're not currently using. And to do that, I'm going to go to the namespaces tab in Eclipse, and you could do this by hand, but if you've got Eclipse, it's easy to do it that way via this Spring IDE plugin that I'm using. And I'm just going to tick this context namespace here. And let's untick it again, and you can see we get this warning that it's telling us this is going to add or remove tabs at the bottom here, and you can see if I tick it, there's going to be a new context tab down there. So I tick it and there's the new tab. I'm going to save that, and let's look at the XML file, and we can see now that we've got this new context namespace. So if you want to do this by hand, you can. You just need to have this xml_ns:context equals and http www.springframework.org/schema/context, and also put this URL, same URL, into the exercise schema location list of URLs. Now what that allows us to do is, just by ticking that box, we can now go to this new context tab, select the beans root node, right click it and go to insert context : annotation-config, and if I do that, what it's going to do is I'll save it and I'll go to the source, and you can see we've got this context annotation-config element added down here, and that tells Spring that we want to configure things using annotations. It doesn't mean that we can't also configure things just in a normal way using the XML, but we've now got this extra option to use annotations to configure things. And in fact, when I first started looking at Spring, it seemed to be very much about XML, and I kind of disliked it at the time because XML reminds me of configuration, which seems boring to me. And I think a lot of people, partly for that reason, prefer to configure things using annotations. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's been doing Spring day in, day out for a number of years before I started working on this tutorial. And where he works, they purely use annotations. So we're going to look at how you can do less and less in the XML now and more using annotations in the Java, and some people prefer that. The XML stuff is very relevant. It shows us how Spring works. It teaches us the basic principles, and it's still widely used as far as I know. But it's just that you may find if you work with Spring, you may find you're working with people who purely use annotations instead, or they may even mix and match, which is also possible. So that's it for this tutorial. All we've done is we've added this new namespace, and we've simply added this tag, the annotation config tag, and we're going to go on to the next tutorial in looking at the auto wired annotation. So until next time, happy coding.